It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
All right, Brian, so we've talked about things that you use a lot. It's okay to spend money on those. I think another thing that it probably makes sense for us to spend money on are things that can remove hassle from our lives, things that potentially make living our day-to-day lives a little bit easier. And I think this holds a special place in your heart, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, because when we were talking about this, because I want to give context on this one. This is one of those that's important is that, like, when I think about things that remove hassle, we're talking about the washing the car, cutting the grass. These are things that you know you have to do, but you don't necessarily want to do because time is money. But I can tell you, look, I cut my grass for decades. But as I've gotten to the point, and by the way, it got to be a joke, and I was so glad because we were having a conversation. Because Bo, we went somewhere. We went to a funeral this weekend, and you went in comfortable clothes,
workout clothes,
and I said we both agreed we were going to dress in comfortable clothes to go on the car ride down before we dressed in and changed in nice clothes for the funeral, and I wore something that looked very similar to the video of me cutting grass. I do cut grass in like khakis, which I think is part of your fun to make fun of me. But it is one of those things where things that remove hassle, like cutting the grass, like, washing the car, I think you have to understand where you are in your life. Because if you're young and you have plenty of time, but you don't have much in financial resources, maybe the value of your time is not to the point that you should outsource this. But I think you will notice that all of us hit a transition point. Usually when you're getting more successful, plus there's more things in life pulling at you between, your relationships, your kids, and so forth. Pay attention to those things so you know where that transition point is to what the value of your time is.
Brian, you have this great saying. You always say in the early parts of our lives, in the early parts of our careers, we trade our time for money. But as we build wealth and as we move along through our journey, we actually reach a point that perhaps we can trade some of our money for time. And that's exactly what removing these things allows you to do. It allows you to focus on the things that you and only you can be doing, like spending time with your kids, making memories with your spouse, running your business, actually going out and taking a vacation. If you can remove some of these daily tasks, or there's a way for you to outsource it, it frees you up so that you actually can begin to do those things.
So let's actually look at a few of these things, because I thought it was great when we put together the research. It said how much time was spent per month, and then what's the actual cost of doing this, so you can kind of get some cost to benefit ratio analysis here. The first service we had was house cleaning.
This was a big one, Brian. And look, I recognize that this is unique and depends on everyone's circumstance. When my wife and I made the decision that, we're different. We're wired different. Different things matter to us. We take care of things differently. When we recognize that having someone come in and help us keep our house tidy, keep our house clean, it was kind of a game changer in our marriage. Even though it was a financial responsibility that we took on, the value that we receive from that is invaluable, because now we're not having that fight that you said you and your wife always had the fight about who's gonna be the one to do the gross stuff.
Yeah, because that's what I mean. Look, I have no problem. I love cleaning dishes. It's weird. I think it's because my parents made me wash dishes. I just think cleaning dishes is very cathartic. My wife doesn't mind doing laundry, and I don't mind taking the trash out. So it's funny how we lined up nicely on all of our house chores. But cleaning the dookie off the toilet was just not one that we liked. So we needed to outsource. We needed to get some, I didn't mean to say it in a way that made you uncomfortable, but we decided a cleaning service would be best use of money. I love it when I get you. I love it.
Yeah, so think about it. If you, on average, the average American spends 24 hours per month cleaning their house. Well, that's not incredibly, insane, right? It's less than an hour a day, but every day you got to be doing something, whether it's doing the bathrooms, what you referenced, or doing the blinds and dusting and vacuuming and all these things. And so perhaps you've reached a point economically where to get that 24 hours back, it may be worth it for you to spend, on average, according to the national study, about $320 a month.
So the second one is lawn care. And look at this, 32 hours a month, and it costs you about $252. Man, I got to tell you, both of these first two I've seen, That's a lot of hours, 24 hours a month, 32 hours a month, and I can replace that with $250 to $320 a month. To me, good cost of benefit.
Now, this one is really interesting because, Brian, I don't know about you, but when I used to cut my grass, I loved the feeling of it after. When I got done, because I do the lines, of course, I'm OCD. I would do the lines, and I would trim, and I would edge, and I would blow off. And it was really, really neat. But here's what it was doing. I was having to do it on Saturdays or Sundays. My yard, because I had all the electric stuff just like you had, was taking like 3 hours to do. Well, that's 3 hours that I wasn't with my kids, that 3 hours of weekend time that I didn't get back. And I am like grotesquely allergic to every grass and allergen out there. So like I cut and I can't breathe. I'm breaking out in hives. I got to jump in the shower. Again, this is one of those things when I finally just stepped over that threshold and said, okay, I can get someone else to help me with this. My quality of life on the weekend summers went up exponentially.
So I'm all on board, and I think for everything you just said, these make a lot of sense when you reach that threshold that your time is so valuable because of family commitments and other things. Do these things.
Yep.
This third one was a little more controversial to me, which was grocery delivery, because this says that the commitment is about 5 hours a month, and yet it could save you $120. This one I felt like was an assault on my traditional life and the fact that my childhood memories, because remember, my dad was laid off in his 40s. There was a lot of poor times there, but there were great family memories where you don't realize you're poor. And one of the great things that I love doing was we load up every Thursday and go buy groceries. And I don't know if that's because closer to the weekend they did more free samples at the end of the aisle caps, but it was a great time, and I still have great memories that I still like to go to the grocery store with my family and shop. So maybe that's an oddball thing, but 5 hours of benefit for $120 cost, the cost of benefit doesn't play for me. But you said it does for your family.
Counterpoint, my wife and I, we talked about that she's going to be the head of grocery operations in our household. Well, we have 2 young kids that before they were in school, they would be at home. And so she would be responsible of taking the 2 young kids and load them up and run to the grocery store. And literally it would just be a travesty between running away from her and grabbing stuff off the aisles and throwing things out of the cart and pitching fits and having to go to the bathroom like every 14 and a half seconds. She was like, Bo, this is impossible. It is so difficult. How would you feel about us using one of these services where I can sit at my computer while the kids are playing around me? I can order the groceries, we can have them delivered. For us, it made a lot of sense in that season of life. Well, now once the kids are in school and going through that stuff, perhaps we will go back to the grocery store. But I think it's interesting. I think when you were a kid, grocery delivery probably wasn't even an option. Right. I think it's so neat that perhaps these types of things, as we move throughout our life, they change, right? Yeah. Some seasons it might make sense to take advantage of these, and some seasons it might not. Or even from a financial perspective, just like you said early on, maybe it doesn't make sense to outsource some of these things. But as the ebbs and flows of our life take place, it is likely to change and adjust through time.
Yeah, I mean, your budget still does matter because I don't want somebody to get the wrong idea when they watch this video and be like, hey, I heard the guys say that it's okay to outsource somebody to go, wash the car, cut the grass, or clean the house, when maybe you have, like I said earlier, a lot of time, idle time, and it does, and you don't have much money coming in, so your budget is structured in a way. No, go do the stuff. Yep. I think that's something that is, in our society right now, there's way too many people that when you're not on financially stable ground that are paying for convenience when maybe that is not what your budget needs at that point. But I do think once you're saving and investing the 25% and your time is worthwhile and you're trying to make sure you're doing right by the kids, right by your spouse, by all means, take advantage of these convenience things. And I'll even give you the other side of the coin of where you can even pay a premium. Is like I picked on grocery delivery, but meal services, meaning where they show up with the fresh ingredients and you meal prep services. I am willing to pay a premium on that because in some ways it also expands my quality of life because it's like date nights for my wife and I when we cook.
That's great.
2 nights a week. So that's why I think you do need to pay attention to your budget, where you are in your life and financial cycle so that you get that perfect recipe of the cost to benefit and knowing that there is value there, intrinsic value to your financial life.